The Floor Academy podcast is sponsored by Trelama, the trade labor marketplace, where businesses can find skilled trade labor, such as flooring installers, and where flooring installers and other skilled tradespeople can find permanent or project work. You can set up your profile at trelama.com, TRALAMA.com, or download the app from the Apple App Store or Google Play. And remember, Trelama is always free for skilled tradespeople. Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hedin, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Phoenix, Arizona. We are here to talk with flooring professionals from all across the country about the issues that matter to you. I want to encourage you to learn while you earn. This week's guest is Keaton Turner. Keaton is the founder of Turner Mining Group. They focus on contract labor to service the mines. Whether a client has one site in Michigan or 10 sites nationwide, Turner Mining Group has the teams in place to service you. Keaton and I spend our time discussing employees, loyalty, independence, and risk-taking. Listen in to learn some easy insights that can take your business to the next level. Keaton Turner, are you on the line?
I am, Kyle. How are you, man?
I'm good. Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. So thankful to be on talking to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. This was a fun one. So we'll get this out of the way. You're not a flooring person, but I had heard you on the Entree Leadership podcast put out by the Dave Ramsey's group over there doing their thing, and you had said something that really just blew my mind. And so we'll dig into that in a minute, but if you can tell the people who you are, what you do, why you do it, just the 30,000 foot overview of Keaton Turner's life real quick, and then we can kind of jump into things.
Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. Thanks so much. So I'm Keaton Turner, as Kyle mentioned. I started a mining company about 4.5 years ago, Turner Mining Group. And what we do, we're a service provider to the mining industry. So we don't own the mine, we don't own the mineral or the gold or the silver or whatever we're mining. We just come in as a service provider. So we'll do the drill and blast. We'll dig the material out of the ground. We'll put it in our big trucks and haul it to the customer's processing facility. They process it and sell it. I like to think that we, 4 years ago, kind of got our start in social media. I'm a big fan of social media, both podcasts and Instagram, LinkedIn, all of that. And our aim is to really make mining sexy and really make life better for the mining industry, which is arguably the oldest industry on the planet. So yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Kyle.
Oh yeah. So how do you end up starting how do you even get to owning a mining servicing company, right? Like, just the machines alone are astronomically expensive, I would assume, knowing construction equipment, but then it's just kind of that's just an odd space. Like, is it a family thing? If I remember correctly, like you worked for an uncle or something and he was in that space, or?
Yeah. So I had an uncle that, was in the heavy earth moving space. I went to college at Indiana State, kind of worked for my uncle through college and then after college. And we did everything from, athletic fields. We built some soccer fields. We did landfills. And some of our clients were, mining clients. They owned mines. We would do some overburden removal for them. And I really took a liking to those clients because it's funny, in the mining industry, the average age of the miner is 52 years old. Mm-hmm. And of course, back then I was a 22-year-old kid, 23, 24. And every site that I went to, there were a bunch of old guys. And I thought, as naive as I was, I said, well, man, it can't be that hard to go find a bunch of young kids to replace some of these old guys someday. Turns out it's a little harder than I imagined
Uh-huh.
10 years ago, but it's been a heck of a ride, and we're having a blast doing it.
Yeah, the flooring industry is plagued by the same problem. They've been talking about a installation, quote unquote, installation crisis since like the 70s, and it just continues to get worse to where there's poor training on top of poorly run businesses that's led to poor workmanship overall, underqualified people doing it, and then the younger kids don't want to come in because they don't see it as like a lucrative career, and everyone says it's hard and your body's going to hurt and you're going to get broken down and don't do it. And you said the thing of, I want to make this sexy, and that's what flooring needs. Is it, you have to put the sexy in it, because there's nothing wrong with it. There's no shame in being blue collar. There's tons of ways to make it work for you. So I like hearing other industries looking to do the same thing and people working to better how trades are looked at.
Well, and Kyle, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, our industry has talked about a labor shortage for a long time. COVID did not help that. I mean, shoot, when our federal government's paying people to sit at home, it makes it even harder for folks like you and I to go hire people to come work hands-on in a skilled or even an unskilled trade day in and day out. And so from the beginning, I have always thought the only way we win in the mining industry is by getting the best people. Now, there have been times where we've been better at that than others. There's been times where we've kind of, I'll say, let our people down, or maybe went a different direction than a majority of our people. But I mean, in the skilled trades industry, whether it's flooring or mining or roofing, anything, you talk to any business owner right now, the biggest challenge is not sales. It's not equipment. It's not borrowing money.
Yep.
The biggest challenge is people. And we've got to figure out how to make our industry sexy so that we can attract people. And then once we've attracted them, we got to go train them. And then we've got to figure out how to retain them. Are we going to pay them enough? We're going to make the crew fun and exciting enough. So retaining, recruiting, training, and retaining people is a full-time business inside your business. I fully believe it.
I would absolutely agree with that. And that's the perfect segue. So the comment that wowed me and like blew my mind was from the Entree Leadership podcast, was that you had said, like, I want all of my guys, all of my employees to end up millionaires or something to that aspect, right? And so it was weird for me to see a business owner looking out for the well-being of their employees, because oftentimes it's always like, I need the biggest piece of the pie. I need more of the pie. It's too expensive to have you around, right? And so to see somebody actively saying, like, I want to take care of people, it warmed my heart. I'm not going to lie, because that's something that I would love to see more of, is people being paid fairly. Yes, I own the company. Yes, I have technically the biggest risk because you can get hurt. You can screw up an installation and the floor could fail. There's things that can happen, and I have to mitigate those risks, but I can do that through training. I don't necessarily have to do that through the percentage of money I take from the company.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle, for me, I'll just put it all out there. I recognized when I was 27 that my life was probably a third of the way over, given the statistics of the average male in the U.S. And so, I thought to myself, how in the world am I going to live the next 2/3 of my life, A, feeling fulfilled, but B, really making a difference on earth with the time I've got left, which is kind of a weird thing to think about at 27. And the older I've got, I'm now 32, I don't think anything's changed. In fact, I think, I'm questioning now, how in the world do I make more of a difference? Because quite frankly, the money really doesn't do much for you. I've been lucky enough. We say this in mining, everything's got an extra zero. The equipment, the average price of equipment that our people are riding around in every day is about $500,000. Some of it's, over $1 million, but give or take $500,000 per machine for every one of our employees that they're riding around in. So you can imagine the revenue numbers, the cost numbers, the risk in general just has an extra 0 or 2 on it compared to most other businesses. And, when you put it in that perspective, the money really doesn't matter. It's how you're affecting other people and how you're making their life better, which sounds cliche. I get it. But if I'm on earth just to make some money, I know I'm going to die, hopefully closer to 85, 90 years old than my current age, but I'm going to die someday. I can't take the money with me, right? I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I believe in the higher power. I'm going to go somewhere. The money doesn't go with me.
Yeah.
So how am I affecting people on earth between now and then? That's my real goal. Now, it helps to make some money along the way. I'm not against making money. Don't hear what I'm saying. I'm all about making money, but I know that the money is not going to fulfill me long term, and so I've got to find out a way to, really make an impact in people's lives in a positive way. And my hope is that carries on long after I'm gone.
Well, so you said, okay, it's cliche to want to, improve people's lives, leave behind this thing that, you help start, right? And it gets the ball rolling. But I don't think it is, because we start a business, right? Like essentially, generally you start a business because you're sick of being somebody's employee and you want to make your life better. You a lot of guys get in the flooring business because they catch the invoice that the boss leaves on the counter for the client to pay. And they say, well, how come I don't get all of that? Right. And then they want the money and they want to do it. But you also, a lot of guys will get in the situation of, well, I'm sick of being told when to show up. Like I want to choose what I want to do so I have more time with my family. That's why I want to run a business. But if you're going to make that decision for you, why would you then go and not do the same for your employees? Shouldn't you help them improve their lives as well? That's my mentality. Like, that's why I can't understand when people are like, well, I can't pay you anymore. Like, you're topped out. Like, what numbers? Like, when are you really sitting there and looking at your books and truly understanding your numbers to know what you can or can't pay? And then it's, well, I can't charge anymore. Well, did you try? Like, I think a lot of people get told no once and they kind of give up, but I think that's it's not necessarily a flooring industry thing, but like generally contractors aren't the greatest business people. Really good hand skills, not great business skills. And that's one of the reasons why this podcast came about.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle, I'll tell you, it's funny. 5 years ago, I would say that, I believed I could start a business because I could make more money and create a better life for myself. Today, and I believe that about most business owners. They start a business to go create, more wealth for themselves. Today, I believe if you start a business, you're a psycho. It is hard. It is hard work. Employing people. I mean, we've got, I don't 200 plus employees today. I have no idea how many employees we have. It is hard work going to bed every night knowing you're feeding 200 plus families, or even if it's 5 families. It is a very taxing thing to do. And don't get me wrong, I love small business. I love knowing that I can go capitalize on an opportunity and make an employee's life better and hopefully make a client's life better at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a very exhilarating challenge, but 5 years in, you almost have to be a lunatic to run a small business because it is so difficult. And nobody talks about it these days. Everyone talks about the glamour of business. You see it all the time on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, a founder this and startup that. It is real tough work to go make a dollar for yourself, let alone a dollar for yourself plus several other families that you have to go employ.
Yeah.
I think our generation, my generation specifically, misses a lot of that. We're pretty entitled. We're pretty self-deserving, all that, which is a whole separate podcast topic we won't get into. But it's a challenge, and you've got to really know your craft, and you've got to be really good, whether it's flooring or mining or construction, whatever the thing is. You've got to be at the top of your game day in and day out. And it's not just the technical side. You've also got to figure out how to go get insurance at a fair deal, banking relationships. You've got to be an HR person. You've got to be a marketing person. It's the amount of hats that you have to wear as a small business person is never ending, and it's not glamorous. I don't care what magazine article you read. It is just, you'll never understand it until you go do it. I fully believe that.
Yeah. And well, I say on the podcast that you were a flooring installer the minute you formed that LLC or corporation, whatever paperwork you put in place to have a business in your state. You are now 8,000 other things, and you are flooring installer last. That is the last thing you will do anymore. It is everything else that will make that business go.
I completely agree. Kyle, I've got a hard hat and a set of steel-toed boots that I used to wear every single day. I haven't laced those things up in 6 months. And it's not because I'm too good or too fancy or any of that. It's just I've got a full-blown day job to keep the day job going.
Yeah.
And it's the necessary evil that kind of manifests itself. A lot of people think, oh, you're fortunate to have that. And I agree. But a lot of other people, they really don't realize the steps that it takes to get into a small business and be successful. If you see anybody that is a successful small business owner who employs people and is running a business, that is amazing. I don't think people understand how amazing that is, because most people don't make it as a small business.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you're right. It's, the statistics are out there to, see that how many businesses fail in the first year, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, and they're not pretty. And let alone you start running, if you want to be a restaurant person, they're probably even more dismal, because that's the super thin margins there, and even harder. There, you have to have a team. Like, you can't, unless you want to run a cart on a corner in Manhattan, like, you're going to have trouble. So,
well, I'm in a group, Kyle. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I'm in a group, and I think this is what really struck a chord with me. I joined a group about a year and a half ago called C12, and one of the things they say is no margin, no mission. And basically what it means is if you're not making money as a business, you're never really going to go accomplish whatever mission you set out to accomplish, whether that's, philanthropy, donating to the homeless, helping your own staff better their lives.
Yeah. If
you're not making a margin, you're not going to go accomplish your mission. And anytime I, get out in front of my skis in our own business, I remember that, because you've got to make money.
Yeah.
People don't want to talk about it. People don't want to glorify it. You've got to go make money as a business owner, regardless of your upbringing or background or any of that, in order to go accomplish the real mission that you want to accomplish.
I agree. Well, what's the point of starting a business if you don't want to make money? Like, that, you could have just stayed somebody's employee. You were doing you should have been doing okay. The point was that there was other goals to accomplish, and this should be the vehicle to feed that. So,
And you've got a lot less headaches as an employee
Oh yeah,
versus an employer.
sure do. Get a clock in, clock out, go home, and not worry about it.
Yeah.
So, what kind of do you have like any things in place for your employees to help them accomplish this goal of retiring with something left in their pocket? Is there, I'm sure you offer like 401k at this point, or at least an IRA. There's probably benefits involved, but do you do any kind of, financial education? Do your, like whatever investment firm you're probably using for your 401k or IRAs come in and offer some kind of education service?
Yeah, so we do all the normal fun stuff. I mean, we do a 401k match where you put in a certain percentage as an employee. The company matches that. It's literally free money. I don't care what corporation you work for. They probably have a very similar program. And a lot of people don't even understand this. If you put in $3,000 and your employer matches up to $3,000, they're giving you a $3,000 free dollars each year.
Yep.
So I would highly encourage that. We do that. We do a few other things as far as benefits go, but one thing I'm a big fan of is self-education. And so every 2 weeks we have a staff meeting. Everyone on staff gets on a virtual meeting. Whether you're in our Bloomington office here, we all go cram into a conference room, or we've got a Salt Lake office, they cram into a conference room, and anyone else that's remote, they join via Zoom. And we talk for about an hour about self-development, because I believe, of course I went to college, but I believe this day and age, anyone could skip college and go learn a ton of information and self-educate themselves on their own for free.
Oh yeah.
Beyond college. And so what we do every 2 weeks as a staff, we get together, we talk about a topic, and it can be anything from, something the business is facing at that point, a challenge, whatever, or literal self education stuff. We give out books that will help, mindsets. I mean, I've got a list of books that have helped me more than any college course I've ever taken. And these books are $10, $15. I think there's a massive misinformation circulating throughout our youth that is, you have to go to college to be successful. I can tell you right now, I learned more the first year out of college and each subsequent year after that than I did in college.
Yeah.
And it was because I made it an effort to continue self-educating and surrounding myself with people that wanted to make me a better person. There's nothing wrong with college, especially if you want to go be an accountant or a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. But for the skilled trades folks, you don't have to go to college to be successful. And you really don't have to go to college to be smart. You can learn business from simple books. You can learn business and marketing for people that you hang around and invest your time into. So I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big proponent of that. I am not a huge fan or proponent of secondary education for the mass.
No, I look, I 100% agree. I went to a for-profit film school that was absolutely horrendous, spent a ton of money, made my way in the reality television industry for a few years based out of Phoenix, which like never should have happened. But that was more work ethic and determination than anything else. That was what got me to where I wanted to be. That ended up not working out, and I needed to figure something else out. And that's when I figured out like I'll get into wood flooring or something. And so I had skills that could relate to that, hopped in, and this is really the first time that I've ever liked education. And that's one of the reasons, that's where this podcast came from, is I was like, there's a ton of, like, I went looking for business podcasts and marketing podcasts, and I was able to find them, but then I was like, well, what about flooring? Like, I want to listen to floor guys do it. And there wasn't really anybody doing it. And so I was like, well, I can do that. Like, I know how the audio equipment works. And I started calling up these floor guys and saying, hey, can I just interview you? Can we talk about this? Because I need the information, but if I need it, how many other people need it? And then there was,
Well,
let's get a group going. Let's start doing a book of the month. And like, you can pick any number of books, like you said, right? They're 10, $15, like one a month. What, $600 in books a year should easily make you 10 times that amount.
yeah. I mean, Kyle, I mean, one of my favorite sayings is there's a million ways to make $1,000,000. And my second favorite saying is there are dumber people out there killing it just because they've taken a chance. They've tried it.
Yep.
And if you say there's no flooring podcasts out there, I can tell you there was definitely no mining podcasts out there before we started doing it. And it could have been a total failure. It could have been a total dud. But it cost us very little time, very little effort, very little money to go try it. So many people are scared to just go try. They're scared to branch out of their comfort zone. They're scared to leave home or try something that's new. And quite frankly, the people that are successful are the people that have taken some sort of risk.
Yes.
Now, albeit a calculated risk sometimes, but a lot of people just jump. They know enough about a certain topic or a certain profession or a certain trade, and they just say, you know what? Life is short. I'm not getting any younger. I'm not getting any wealthier. I'm going to go try it. I'm going to give it my all, and I don't have a plan B. That's typically when it works out. I mean, I can only speak from my own experience. I had no plan B. I had 2 kids. I had a dog. I had a mortgage. It was the worst time for me to leave a family company to go start something from scratch. But life is short. I mean, we're here and gone. And so if we're not trying something that really sets us on fire, what are we really doing?
Look, I totally agree. And I don't think you have to put yourself out there and be willing to fail in order to succeed, because there's no failures if you learn from the experience, in my opinion. Because if you learn something, you didn't fail. You at least learned something and you can apply it in the future. And then the other part to that is that I forgot. It was at the end of what you said.
Well, you don't have to be a genius. I mean, I'll be honest, Kyle. I'm as normal as a guy as it gets. I wish the people that were listening could see me in high school driving a camo Ford Ranger to high school. I'm as normal as it gets. I'm not super smart, but what I have done is surround myself with people that are smart, surround myself with people that are good human beings that make me a better person that I can learn from. And you do that long enough, especially at an early age, life works out for you. I fully believe that me at 32, surrounded by a bunch of really good human beings who push me to be a better human being, at 52, I'll be all right. Whether this business works out or not, or the next business, or the third or fourth business, I'm going to be okay as long as I'm surrounded by good people that make me better. I just fully believe that.
Oh, well, I think the mentorship is a huge part of it. And so you've obviously found people to mentor you up, and I'm sure with building the company, you realized you had faults and said, I probably shouldn't do this. In fact, I know you have, because in the Entre Leadership podcast, you said, I love to cowboy the numbers, and like, I will just give me a napkin and I'll tell you how much it's going to cost and go bid it at this. And your team would come back to you and be like, no, we really should run the numbers on this. And, we need to look at this a little bit more. So you find your faults, right? You surround yourself with people that can help raise you up. And so as that's happened at 32 now, have you found other people coming to you and like you're already being a mentor to someone, not just on your team, but is there somebody out there in your life that, just knows you through family, friends or something that you've been able to help bring somebody else up?
Yeah, I mean it's always funny. I've got a few folks that have done that, and I look at them like they're crazy. I still feel like I'm 16 years old,
Hmm.
and I've got so much to learn, and why in the world would someone want me to mentor them? And I'm not, trust me, I'm not being humble. I truly feel that way because what I said on Entree Leadership was so true. I mean, every single day, people in my business are pointing out my flaws and things that I've screwed up over the last 4 years. I have plenty of an ego. Trust me when I say, I mean, I named the company Turner Mining Group. So I mean, I've got plenty of an ego. I have really had to set the ego aside and say, you know what? I do not know that much about equipment. I do not know that much about people and onboarding people and hiring people. I really don't know that much about mining. But the one thing I have been good at, and this is kind of me, tooting my own horn here, is I'm going to go find the best people in the industry that are good at those things.
Hmm.
The best equipment guy, the best mining guy, the best people person, the best marketing person. So many small business owners struggle with that. They think they're the person, they're the guy. It's John Smith contracting or Larry Joe bricklayer,
Hmm.
and they're the one that's going to set all the rules and all the. There are so many smart people out there, especially smart young people that have never really been given a chance.
Yeah.
If you give them a chance, it's amazing how much they can improve your business. And now, trust me, I've extended some gratitude to some young people that haven't taken us quite in the direction we wanted to go. You gotta pull them back, yank the collar a little bit, but you've got to get out of the way as the business owner. You've got to manage expectations,
Hmm.
hold people accountable. When they get off track. But there's so many smart people out there. If you can attract and recruit the right kind of caliber person, smart person, it's unbelievable what they can do to your business.
Yeah. I listened to a guy named Dean Jackson. He's a big marketing guy, but he essentially, the reason you have to enter your email address in a website to get something, essentially he invented that concept. He was big in direct marketing long ago, and he has this concept now of who, not how. And it's who can do it, right? Like, not how do I accomplish this? Who can accomplish this for me, right? Go find the right person, plug them into the machine, and you should, the wheel should all keep spinning correctly. And so I think a lot of times small business owners, especially when it's contracting related, because it's like this artsy thing, even if you're just framing a house, like it's still this artsy thing, and you get hung up on, I'm the only one that can do it right, I'm going to do it to perfection, my name's on the company, everyone's looking at me. And that's not, you can't advance if you can't let go. Like, you have to trust other people, and I think that's where a lot of small business owners fail, is that they can never let go. They're always having to micromanage, and you just have to
Well, I'm
accept.
gonna
Go
give
ahead.
you a real interesting concept because this is something that I learned a couple years ago when I was trying to grow our business. You do not get paid. Kyle Keaton does not get paid based on how well he can put a floor in. What you get paid on is how well you can recruit other people and train them to put multiple floors in. Because if you just put floors in yourself one at a time, one after the other,
Mm-hmm.
you would make X return. If you can teach 5 people how to do it even 80% as effective as you can, you would make 4 times the return as if you were doing it by yourself. And so what I've had to really grasp myself as a business owner is, how do I train? Let's say I'm good at what I do. How do I train
Mm-hmm.
5 times as many people to do what I'm doing as 80% effectively or 90% effectively? And you get that down, I'm going to go train 20 to do it 75% as effectively as what I'm doing. That is really, now that's on the scale side, the growth side. Some people don't want to grow.
Yeah.
But for me, that's what I really had to go figure out is I've got to replicate myself. Not only replicate, I've got to find people that are better at it than what I'm doing. It'd be a super interesting business model for a flooring expert, I'm doing air quotes, flooring expert, to go hire 3 or 4 or 5 other flooring experts that are emerging, that haven't quite started their own thing, but they're really good, they're emerging.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go hire them. I'm going to deploy them, and they're going to do floors as good or better than I would do them, but they don't have any of the risk of running a business. They get a guaranteed paycheck every week. I mean, that's small business 101. And so many people miss that.
And and it's because, like I said, because of the artsiness behind it, right? Like, we have a hard time giving up control. There's definitely groups that just subcontract out work. There's companies all across the country that have contracts with Lowe's, Home Depot, Empire, and you can just go be a subcontractor for them, or you can go and find your local store and you can be a subcontractor for them, right? They sell the job, you show up, you get a work order, you go and do it. The retailers have gotten it. I think a lot of times the actual small business owner that doesn't necessarily, like myself, I don't have a storefront yet. It's just me. I'm trying to get past just me and find that first person to stick around long enough that I can say, okay, hey, look, it's just a 150 square foot room today. You go take care of it. Like, I'll drop off the trailer. You can have the tools. I'll come by at the end of the day when you're done, and we'll look it over. Just finding that person is the struggle, because a lot of times you get them trained up, and like I said, they catch a look at that invoice and they wonder why don't I get more? And so they go and they start doing it on their own, and they buy their own tools.
Yeah.
And it's like
go
ahead.
The one thing you have working against you in your industry is barrier to entry. There is very little barrier to entry.
Mm-hmm.
When someone sees a $3,000 invoice for a week's worth of work, they say, well, shoot, I can go buy, $500 worth of tools, work 75 hours, and I can invoice $3,000.
Yep.
The problem is, and that's true. I mean, that's a real challenge that your industry faces. But I can tell you from my own perspective, and take the numbers out of it, because, like I said earlier, there's 1 or 2 extra zeros in mining. It's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do $10 to $15 million proposals to clients, and I thought these proposals were the best thing ever. Right? They were perfect. No word misspelled, no number out of place. We just sent $100 million proposal that I didn't even look at. I didn't proofread it. I didn't do anything to it. And I can tell you, I would have done it a whole lot differently than what we did it. But we won a $100 million deal when I leveraged my people. When if I would have inserted myself, who knows how that would have turned out. Right, I had to give faith and trust. Now, that took a whole lot of practice. I don't want to downplay the situation. It took a whole lot of time, effort, energy to get to that point. But I had to figure out how to go find the people that I can trust, that are experts at their craft, and then leverage them and get out of their way. If I'd have micromanaged them, A, it would have pissed them off. But B, they wouldn't have been around long term.
Yeah.
The only reason they came here is because I let them run a business unit, and that got them excited to go run it as their own thing. If I was micromanaging them, even if they won that big deal, they wouldn't be super excited, because it would have been the boss's deal. It wouldn't have been their deal.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I've had to deal with it.
Well, so you've built a company of owners then. Like, you have people that are invested in, they may be an employee, but they take what they do very seriously, and they feel they are a part of something larger, right? They're not just there punching in, punching out. They have an active role that's respected.
It's funny you say that, Kyle, because one of the things we've said on our staff calls, which are these every 2 week calls that I told you about earlier, one of the common themes is be an owner. If I can figure out how to replicate myself, not that I'm so majestic and amazing, 'cause trust me, I'm not, but if I can figure out how to replicate my mindset and how I think about owning this business, if I can replicate that to other people and they can also be an owner and feel like they own part of this business, they own the project, or they own the proposal, or they own the hiring of people, whatever the thing is that they're working on, marketing, finance. If they're an owner, this whole machine will just run better. If you had a guy that cared as much about laying a tile floor as you do and thought about it with an owner's mindset, you would double the size of your business.
Yes.
The problem is you hire a guy that does not care about tile floors and could not care about your business any less than he does, and he's just there for the paycheck. It causes you more headaches than it does anything else, and it does not double the size of your business.
There's a lot of that. I think a lot of it comes down to unfair pay too, though. Like I said, I think a lot of times, I don't think a lot of guys are charging enough. This industry is very watered down and very, like, the box stores have made it seem very DIY, right? You can go to Home Depot on Saturday and the 19-year-old kid's going to teach you how to put a backsplash in. So why should I pay somebody a ton of money to do that? But if you can even find the person that can show up and be passionate, oftentimes I think they leave because they're just not being compensated fairly. Like the way I work the numbers is that in my mind, if you can do $800 in labor a day, I can pay you $400 total compensation package. So, I'm going to take I'm going to match your taxes out of that half. I'm going to pay you out of that half. I'm going to pay your workman's comp out of that half. Like, everything will come out of your half of it, and I'll get the other half. But I'm taking all the risk. I'm providing all the tools. I have a shop. I have trailers, and I have bills to pay. So we'll split it 50-50. I think a lot of times people are like, well, you're going to go work all day. Some guy will do $800 to $1,000 in labor, but at the end of the day, they're paying him $200 under the table. They're going to 1099 him at the end of the year for, $52,000. And then they walk away. Like, it's insane.
Yeah. I was going to color a little bit outside the lines and say I'd be surprised if most of your competitors are even paying workers' comp, but you kind of beat me to the punch there. I mean, that's the issue with barrier to entry. And not to downplay the industry, but we deal with it all the time, especially, in the Southwest or the Southeast. We're competing against people that just don't play by the rules.
Yep.
And it's hard for me to charge a fair price when my opponents are not even paying workers' comp, let alone all the other things that we're having to pay for as a professional services, organization. So trust me, I fully get it. I just have made the conscious decision to not go play in those markets. I'm not going to go play in the Southeast knowing that my competition has hired illegal aliens and is not paying workers' comp and, employment taxes and everything else. It's just, I hate to do that, but that's it. It's taken a few years to realize it's a waste of time, effort, energy to go compete there until something changes.
Well, I think we all have to find our niches, right? Like that's what it was for me. Like, I was the cheap guy. I was the guy underbidding the market when I started out on my own 4 years ago, and I didn't even have an LLC yet, and I was taking jobs on the weekend when I wasn't doing my Monday through Friday thing. And slowly but surely it was, build it up. Okay, I don't want to deal with a client that has something like this. Like, I had a guy early on, right? He pulled laminate out of his old house and he wanted it installed in his new house. So all these boards there was full boards, there were cut boards that were end pieces, and he just had it all stacked in a pile. And so what should have been like a 2.5 hour installation took me all day because I had to sort this pile out, and then I had to like look for the best fitting board to make sure I had enough to make it all work. And I didn't charge appropriately for that, but I got 2 more jobs on that block that I also didn't charge appropriately on. But it gave me a start. And I think you start somewhere, you are the guy that undercuts, and then you learn and you figure out where you want to play in the market and what kind of projects you're looking for and how you're going to participate. And I think you're like me and you're just like, look, I don't want the clients that want the lowest bid. I want the clients that want a fair price for the quality service that I offer.
Well, you said a few things there that I want to touch on because I truly believe I'm someone that started a business from scratch, no real venture capital money, no big investments or anything like that. You've got to know your numbers well enough to know that you can go do a project and break even and use the leverage from that project to gain other customers. Because you got to get your start somehow. And it's funny how much of a snowball effect can happen when you go do one job well and the customer talks about you to their friends, and their friends are bankers or whatever, and their friends call you and you do another project really well. And next thing you know, you look back 2 years later and you're like, well, I haven't made a ton of money, but I've stayed busy and I've made a name and reputation for myself. That's worth a ton of money.
Yes.
A lot of people get caught in the trap that they got to go maximize how much profit they make on each job. And what happens is they start to get a bad reputation. They get a reputation of someone hard to deal with, hard to work for, expensive, not worth the quality, blah, blah, blah. And it snowballs the other way. And so how I've built my business is I'm going to go do as many projects as I can at volume. And I don't have to maximize the profit, but I've got to maximize the reputational impact it brings to my company. And then long term, I can capitalize on the reputation and the brand I've created, not short term maximize on every single little bitty project I've landed. A lot of people miss that.
Well, I think there's probably lifetime value of a client in there too, because I got to assume that these companies that are buying mineral deposits in the ground, generally this is what they do for that's their business, right? They find one here, they find one there, they find one over there. And so if you build a good relationship with them on 1 or 2 projects, you're more than likely to get the next project that they find. They may not even bid it out to multiple companies. They may just come to you and say, look, just handle it.
Well, and Kyle, something really magical happens when you have a spotless reputation. My mom, she builds homes. She's an interior designer. Her hardwood guy, his name escapes me, but he did Oprah Winfrey's hardwoods, hardwood floors. I guarantee you he was not the lowest bidder on the project.
Yeah.
He got the job because of his reputation. He's on time. He's on budget. He's a good guy to work with. He's fair. That, to me, is so much value. And so many people miss. There's projects where we've lost $100,000. I mean, shoot, to be frank, there's projects we've lost a whole lot more than that and saved our reputation. Because our reputation is worth so much more than what we have charged on that project. It's kind of like what you said earlier. I didn't make money on the first one. A couple people down the street didn't make money on theirs. But you start to build a reputation in the craft, the craft trades world, the service industry world. I'm a big believer that labor is going to be a problem for the next 10 years or more. The people that have the best reputation, who are easiest to get along with, who charge a fair price, not a cheap price, but a fair price, and deliver tons of value and quality, those are the people that are going to maximize profits and have no problem keeping their backlog full. The people that are sketchy, that are chasing the quick dollar, that are in and out or fly by night, those people are just not going to be around, I don't think.
No, I completely agree. It's funny. I've won jobs because I show up when I say I'm going to show up, right? If you tell somebody you're going to be there at 5 p.m. to do an estimate, show up at 5 p.m. Like, don't show up at 5:30. Don't not call them. You tell them you're going to, hey, when am I going to get the bid? Within 24 hours. So if you don't have it by 5 p.m. tomorrow, like I screwed up, just send it. Just tell them when you're going to do it and then do it. And you'll have a ton of respect because 90% of contractors don't do that. So you've already differentiated yourself.
If there's anybody listening that could get any value, because trust me, I hire contractors all the time, whether it's some subcontractors for our business or I'm at home hiring someone to paint my house.
Mm-hmm.
What you just said was probably the most valuable thing anybody could hear. Just be true to your word. When you're going to be late, say you're late. When you're going to, be there on time, or when the price is XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much value in that people just don't understand, because we all get busy. I'm as guilty of it as anybody. We tell the client, hey, you're going to have a proposal 2 weeks from now. Well, 3 weeks go by and we're stuck holding the bag and we look like idiots. We need to own that as a professional services company, or as a mom and pop painter, carpenter, whatever the case may be. Being honest and open with your clients, I mean, there's massive value in that.
Yeah, I think communication is what gets contractors in trouble a lot of times. A lot of times, I'm sure you've got to have like change order stuff happen on a mining project as well, right? Like you run into a situation that was kind of unforeseen. You bust out the change order. You say it's going to cost X amount of dollars more to take care of it. Here you go. Sign here. Move on. And a lot of times,
happens all the time.
It's contractors in this. Not that you're not a small business, but working on a smaller scale, right? Like it's hey, ma'am, it's going to be like this, and it's said, but it's never texted, it's never written down, it's never anything. And then you go and you hand them this new invoice, and they're like, whoa, what happened here? And so when you don't communicate clearly, you run into more problems. And so has one of the reasons why, a project, like you said, right, you've been off by 100,000, you've been off and lost by probably a million or something before. Was it a communication issue and you had to go through and re-educate the team and say, like, look, this is why we have to be clear and communicate?
Kyle, I'll be honest, most of our issues from a management perspective, when you're talking about on the project, managers, people executing the work out in the field, communication 90% of the time is the problem. It's rarely equipment. Mm-hmm. It's rarely weather. It's rarely the client's too hard to deal with. Most of the time, our issue is that we have not clearly communicated either our wants or our asks from the client. And so, it's very easy to get crossways, right? You assume one thing as a contractor, and you think, well, the client will pay for this because it's the best thing for the client, right? I got to finish this corner out and they don't want it to look sloppy. So I'm going to do this. It's going to cost them an extra $1,000.
Yeah.
The client tells themselves a different story in their mind. The client tells themselves, this contractor is trying to take me for $1,000. And so it's super easy for both sides to start coming at each other on the offensive, because neither one has communicated clearly what's going on. And trust me, I mean, I am guilty of this as much or more than anybody, especially early on. We did not communicate well to our clients. We were either a victim and the client, was trying to force us into a corner, or so we thought, or we were a prosecutor and we said, this client, I can't believe they would treat us that way. And very rarely we would sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, this is how we feel. I don't know if this is how you intended it, but this is what's coming across. It's amazing what can happen when you just pause everything, take emotion out of the situation. You know, if you need to go take a 10-minute walk and deep breaths, whatever you need to do, but take emotion out of it, come back to the table and just have a normal conversation as a professional adult and say, this is what's going on. We're going to have to charge you more. We hope you understand. If not, let us know how you'd like us to proceed. It's amazing what can happen.
You know, you're right. It is. And it's silly how easy it is, right? Like, it's just a conversation. Just sit down and be open about what's happening. But I think the egos get in the way, right? You get worked up and they're trying to take advantage of me and they don't get it. And I'm just doing my job and rah, rah. You don't want to sit down at the table with somebody when you're feeling like that. But if you don't, then what are you going to lose? And I got to think there's got to be, from all of these situations, there's probably like SOPs that you've put in place on how your company is supposed to run now and how it needs to be communicated from top down and bottom up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the toughest part about small business and starting from scratch. When you start your own contracting business, whether you're a painter or you're a flooring contractor or you're a framing guy, building your own SOPs from scratch without anyone giving you formal training or showing you how to do it, it is insanely difficult. And the reason I say that is because I've lived through it. I mean, when we started 4.5 years ago, I didn't even know what an SOP, I didn't even know what that stood for.
Yeah.
Let alone how to go, write one and implement it and make sure our people followed it. 4 years later, it's still a real challenge. And we've got smart people. Our COO, he's got a master's from Harvard. My business partner, he's got a degree from Yale. These are smart people. We've got a couple other people with MBAs. It is really difficult to go build a standard operating procedure and then implement it across your employees or your field force to where they can use it effectively. Because quite frankly, a lot of those people have never even heard of an SOP or used one effectively. It's a real challenge, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the end goal, is to have SOPs, standard operating procedures that work, that are repeatable, that check all the boxes, that help you run your business more efficiently. Absolutely.
Well, I've just done an episode with my buddy Mike Somedine off near Atlanta, Georgia, and we got into talking about some of that stuff. And it's funny in that small businesses are what built the franchises of the world, right? McDonald's started as a very efficient small business, and what's his name? Whatever. He was able to come in, Ray Kroc, right? He came in, saw the McDonald's brothers, and said, "Man, that's really impressive. What if we take this and duplicate it over and over and over again? And now I can sell this model because everything has a system. If we follow the system, we're efficient." And so then, now you've got the Walmarts and the Chevrons and the Shells and all these, whatever. Like, look at these franchises and these large box stores all across the country. They essentially just duplicate a model because there's a procedure, but then small businesses, I think, get upset at how they run, and they neglect to look at why they actually work. And the reason they work is because they've taken the time to implement those systems.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever been to a Chick-fil-A. You're down in the Southwest, so I'm not sure how many are down there.
But we got a bunch. I love it.
If you ever go to a Chick-fil-A around noon, you will understand systems in their glorious capacity. Because Chick-fil-A, I always tell our people, I want to figure out how to build a Chick-fil-A and then replicate that time and time again. Because if we can build one successful site for a client, we can build several successful sites. And just like Chick-fil-A, you go to one in Atlanta, Georgia, or Indianapolis, Indiana, or Raleigh, North Carolina, they are all run the exact same way. They got people out there with iPads. They've got multiple lines of traffic through the drive-through. You're getting your food and you're out of there. And if you did that at a Burger King, it would take half an hour.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
It's unbelievable. But that to me is really the goal. It's kind of the epitome of building systems and processes for small business, because I can remember 20 years ago eating at Chick-fil-A in the mall, getting samples when they used to give out samples.
Yes.
It wasn't that way. It took 20 years of them really building systems and processes to get it that way. And, that's what I'm focused on.
Yeah. When they switched to the off mall model, they had a lot of ground to catch up on. And I think they've done it really well, but it shows in their numbers. They outperform restaurants in the same field that are open 7 days a week, and they're only open 6. So
Absolutely.
And they're not even open 24 hours a day like some of these. So it shows, and it's as simple as having even that little thing, right? They always say my pleasure. Like getting a 16-year-old kid to remember to say my pleasure after it doesn't matter what you say to them. My pleasure.
Just hearing a 16-year-old kid, Kyle, I mean, I'll tell you, that alone makes my day, given the times we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
How they've figured out how to get that to be a thing, I just blows my mind.
They put a system in place. Look, you want to work here? Fine. We'll take care of you. Here's what you do. Why? That's the part that blows my mind is we complain about these other business models, but why aren't we copying them? They're so successful. It's right in front of us. So why aren't we imitating it? Why are we wondering why we can't grow our businesses? Why is it a struggle to find employees? Well, look what they do. They pay better, right? As a construction guy, right? Okay, I'm going to offer you $15 an hour to come work for me 8 hours a day. And I'm going to sell you the job by telling you you're going to be sore and you're not going to be able to bend over by the time you're 40 and get off your knees. So you're never going to enjoy any time with your future grandkids. What kind of a sell was that? I can go make $15 an hour at Chick-fil-A and they'll probably pay for part of my college and give me a 401k and paid time off. What's the better deal? 16-year-olds aren't stupid. 18-year-olds aren't stupid.
Yeah, I think to me, when I hear that, it's a couple things. One, it is Chick-fil-A is able to pay more because the volume they're doing. They would not be able to do that volume. It's kind of like, the revolving hamster wheel.
Mm-hmm.
They would not be able to do that volume of business without paying more, right? If they paid, at or below industry standard, they would get below industry standard people. And, at some point it's like, well.
Oh, Keaton, did I lose you? Uh-oh, guys. We'll give it a second. We'll see if he comes back. I think I lost him, though. Keaton, are you there? All right. I'll call him back. Hold on. Here, we'll get the ring in here again. We're making it happen. Hold on. We're doing it. Here we go. We should get a ring.
Did I lose you?
Yeah, I think we got lost there for a second. So, you were pretty much right at the beginning. I think, by them paying a little bit higher, they're getting higher quality people to begin with.
Well, I kind of ended by saying, and again, it might be a little bit off color, but I don't think Chick-fil-A could run the style of business that they run as efficiently as they do if they had Burger King employees working at Chick-fil-A.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't work as well. And so I think that, every business has to figure out where that sweet spot is to where they can afford a little bit better quality of employee, based on the volume of business that employee can then allow them to go do.
Yeah.
But Chick-fil-A, I think, has really nailed the model. It's taken them a while. I don't know how old Chick-fil-A is, but I can remember, eating samples 25 years ago. They were not as efficient as they are today.
No.
But I mean, that's the goal for small business. Success, create expectation, set the stage for employees to go be successful, and then really get out of there.
Yes. If we can allow them to do what they're supposed to do without getting in their way, then we can allow them to be successful. But I think employees will then feel better about it. The first guy that I started installing for he saw that there was something going on upstairs and I could figure things out, but he also didn't want to be bothered because he wanted to get as much work as he could get done. And so it was like look, this is how you do something. Go over there and do it out of my way, right? But if I had a question, I could come and grab them. And so for me, it was rewarding because I was like, oh, I'm over here. Look at me. I'm doing it myself. Like, I don't need someone to watch me. And I think oftentimes you get caught up trying to look over their shoulder, make sure they're doing it right. And we don't give people enough credit. And then we also don't compensate them well enough in order to allow them to do it. But the compensation thing can also come from, once again, guys in construction just don't generally know to charge enough money. And like you said earlier, you got to know your numbers, and people don't know their numbers. They constantly online, I'm looking at things where it's like, how much do you charge for luxury vinyl plank in South Carolina? What's the going rate? I don't care what the going rate is. You want to know what the going rate is? The rate that when I break down my numbers of how much I can produce a day and how much my overhead is, plus what I need to make for profit, that's my number. I don't care what the person down the street's doing. I care what my number is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a real, I would say, dark spot in our industry and your industry, and really in the contracting industry as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Blow down the street, who just started his company 6 months ago with him and his buddies, or him and his cousin, he drives the price down of what a professional services provider or an expert, whether it's a skilled, craftsman or whatever, they drive the price down. And they stay in business long enough to get ran out of town, and then the market kind of, comes back a little bit for a while until the next one pops up and does it again. It's really the evil or the dark spot on the contracting world in whatever trade you're in. It just happens. I think that's why reputation is so important, because to me, reputation is really what earns you the profit.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing else beyond that.
At this point, and I haven't been doing it long, I've been on my own like 3.5 years. I've been in the game 6. I couldn't agree more, because like I said, 4 years ago, I was doing projects on the weekends, working out of my Cavalier that was, a decade old and sun faded and falling apart with a muffler held up by a coat hanger. And I had a bunch of tools shoved in it. Like, I did not look professional at all, but I wasn't charging professional prices. But I built a reputation of, I come in, I do what I say I'm going to do, and I do it well. And as people got behind that, it was, well, what if I charge a little bit more here? And I charge a little bit more there. And it's built up over time. I think a lot of people get stuck in, I just got to get this project because I have to get a paycheck.
Yeah, and trust me, there is part of that where you've got to go win a project to have the cash flow to just, even if you squeeze $50 out of it. I get that. I was there not that long ago. What I'm focused on these days is two things. One is brand, and that brand is either your name or your business name. All right, it's Kyle Heaton, or it's the business name that people recognize when they hear Kyle. They say, "Oh, I know that guy's legit. I know he can do a quality job. I know he's fair." The other part of it is reputation. Brand and reputation are two different things. Your brand should stand on its own as something that exists. It's something that, when people see your stuff, whether it's your finished product or your pickup truck or your billboard or your marketing material, whatever, they know your brand. Reputation is something totally different. Reputation is something that when people hear your name verbally, not visually, when they hear something verbally, they can say, "Oh, I know that," right? It's like Geico. You see a billboard, you think one thing. When you hear Geico, you think something. I know it's a big time insurance company. There's somebody that is going to give me a competitive quote. They're going to cover me if I have an accident. There are two different things. You can have a brand and not have a reputation. I fully believe it. There's tons of companies out there that do it.
Wow.
Think of Monsanto, for example. They're a big time brand, but they did not care about the environment, and they had all these environmental issues and lawsuits. There are also companies that have a reputation that maybe don't have much of a brand, and you know them as mom and pop guys, right? He's got a reputation, but he doesn't either. He drives old junk equipment. He doesn't have any marketing material. He's not professional. To me, in my industry, and I think this is true of a lot of contracting industries, you've got to have a solid brand and a firm reputation. And if you can do both those things, the profit margin will come. I fully believe it.
I've never heard anybody explain it that way. And I don't know that I've had a conversation where the two came into both of those things kind of came up and developed themselves into the same topic. But I agree with you because I know that like a lot of people think branding, marketing, and advertising are the same thing, and they're not. Those are three separate ways that your name can do something for you. But to throw reputation in there as a fourth factor is a really good way of looking at it. And I agree with you. I think that you can have a brand, but your reputation could be looked at horribly. You may be a well-recognized brand because you advertise it everywhere, but your reputation could be cruddy. I mean, there's
a million companies. Of course, it's hard to think of them on the spot, but think of how many companies, VW, after their big scandal they had with, emissions and all that, there are a ton of really big multi-billion-dollar global companies that have an amazing brand that don't have a great reputation.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of people that have a huge reputation that do not have a great brand, or they don't have any brand at all, for that matter.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of folks in our industries that are contractors, they've got to focus on both brand and reputation. And sometimes it costs X amount of dollars to focus on brand and Y amount of dollars to focus on reputation. Reputation typically is more expensive because it takes longer. You've got to do a project at no margin. And typically you've got to do a lot of projects at no margin to get that reputation. Brand, you can just start doing a lot of marketing, right? You can put your flyers out there, buy a billboard, put your name on your side of your truck, and you start people, "Oh, I see you're doing, flooring."
Yeah.
Reputation takes a long time, a lot of jobs, a lot of satisfied customers to really build a good reputation.
So okay. So I had I forget what you call him. He sells a business broker. I had a business broker on at one point. And one of his tips was don't name your company after yourself, because if I'm Kyle's Flooring or Kyle's Hardwoods or whatever, right now everyone's reviewing my projects as, well, Kyle came and he was great, and so everyone expects me to show up and do it. So as I try and grow my company, it's this battle of, well, no, I don't do the work anymore, like, Tom's gonna show up. So you work in mining. I don't think anybody ever expected Keaton Turner to show up and operate the machine and do the mining, but has that played a negative aspect in your business?
Well, no offense to this business broker, but he's full of complete BS. And here's why. Johnson and Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
those are two normal guys that built a multi-billion-dollar global industry that will last forever, global business that will last forever, right?
Yeah.
Peter Kiewit Construction, second largest construction company. I could name dozens and dozens. Randy's Donuts in Los Angeles, most famous donut shop in the U.S.
Yeah.
There's a ton of companies that are named after a person. Now, is he right in the fact that if it's a toss-up between Kyle's Hardwood versus Omega Floors, maybe, yeah, okay, I could see where Omega Floors is a little easier to get behind than Kyle's Hardwood. But if your product and your service speaks volumes, I don't care what the name is. I really don't. I mean, I'm somebody that just a year or two ago, I said I would sell tampons and I could be successful doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mining guy, right? What gives me the justification to say that I could do that? If you are good enough at your craft and you're a good enough technician, or you're a good enough tradesman or skilled craftsman, the name really doesn't matter. Okay. I think there's a few names that could be massively detrimental, but if they're not some crazy name that's massively detrimental, Turner Mining Group, for example, I'll even bring it more personal to me. We built a brand. We're working on building a reputation in the industry. If I was gone tomorrow, the brand would live on past me. My hope is that any real company that's named after the founder, if it's Kyle's Hardwoods or Kyle's Flooring, if you're really good at what you do and you've got a reputation and a brand, if you die in a massive bus crash, or let's go more positive. Let's say you win the lottery and you retire to Puerto Rico.
Okay.
If you've got a real sustainable business, people understand Kyle's Flooring is synonymous with a reputation that delivers good flooring service products. I don't get caught up in the name. Maybe that's just me, but I don't think people should get super caught up in the name.
I can see it both ways. I think a lot of times, right, like a flooring guy's generally not going to grow a business more beyond like a couple crews, as opposed to I have 200 employees such as yourself now, or however many it is, right? Like there's a different, a little bit different thing, right? Like I can, as a small business guy, I can put my company up right now, but it's not worth much more than the tools per se. And so I think that's where he was coming at with it. But I agree, right? If you can if you can build that brand and the reputation up to be, look, this is what we offer and this is how we do it and this is what the name, like, if I can get Kyle's Hardwoods to mean more than Kyle shows up and does it, yes, I've built it into something more.
Yeah, I think it depends on your end goal. Mm-hmm. If your end goal is to sell the company at a 4x multiple, or a 10x multiple versus your goal is to, run a company, make some money, enjoy what you're doing, and then someday, shut it down when you're ready to retire because you made some money for yourself. Those are two separate goals.
Yeah.
I still think Kyle's Flooring or Kyle's Hardwoods or Kyle's Ice Cream could be a Ben and Jerry.
Yeah.
Like 50 years ago, someone probably told Ben and Jerry, I'm a business broker. I don't think you should name your ice cream Ben and Jerry.
Yeah.
And they probably said, well, you know what? Screw you. I'm making amazing ice cream, and we're calling it Ben and Jerry's, and that's worth $1 billion to,
Yeah. There's
Wendy's.
definitely exceptions to the rule. That's for sure. Yes. No, I get it. There's going to always be exceptions. Even McDonald's works because it's named after the McDonald's brothers, and they're not even involved. It was Ray Kroc that did it all. So, yes, there's always exceptions to the rule. I know. Look, I could probably talk with you all day long, and I would love to. But I also know that you are a busy man. You were, I believe you were traveling today. I've heard the blinker in the background. So you're probably trying to get somewhere. And I don't want to keep you past our allotted time. So my last question really would be, is there something that I should have asked you? That like just people, young business owners, people that have owned a business for 20 years and they never looked into how to properly run a business. Like if you had that piece of advice to give somebody, what's that like one thing that always sticks out to you?
Well, Kyle, I can say I love
I'm hold on. I'm losing you a little bit. That all broke up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
I apologize. I am traveling, but I was in the middle of saying I appreciate the time on the show. I can tell you right now, I love small business. This is a passion of mine. I've always said someday I'm going to get back to small business. And the root of building small business. It's a blast. It's a meat grinder, but it's also a blast, and it's super fulfilling. But to answer your question, I mean, yeah, if I were Keaton Turner listening to this podcast 2 years old, the one thing I would want to hear is really honestly how short life is. And, Kyle, you're somebody that's kind of taken a leap and started a small business, whether it's just you or you and 12 guys or you and 200 guys. Really knowing and understanding how short life is, I think is so undervalued, especially in my generation. Younger people, I feel like we just believe we're going to live forever. And it's amazing what happens when, life starts happening. You have kids, you get a family. You wake up one day and you're 40, 50 years old and you wonder, what in the world did I do with my life? Or why didn't I do much with my life? I try to always force people to think about that. Mm-hmm. I would never have taken the leap of faith and started the company that I started if I hadn't woken up one day when I was 27 years old and really got smacked in the face with the fact that my life was a third of the way over. Life is short. I'm a big believer in taking big swings, swinging for the fences. I just don't think people ever reach their full, true potential or real success without taking massive swings. Now, I don't mean, just blind swing. I don't mean taking unnecessary risks or, jumping in head first and not knowing the market you're jumping into. I think there's tons of homework that should be done. But man, life is short, and you should go do what you love, dive in head first, and try to make a career out of it, because you might wake up one day 55 years old and regretting not taking the chance.
No, I love it. I do. I think nothing ventured, nothing gained. I don't think the education system as it is now promotes people to become individual thought people. It's very mundane. Go work in the cubicle. We're not building business leaders per se, and so when they do step out, I think it's a lot scarier than it would have been 100, 200 years ago. And we need to get back to encouraging that mindset and making sure that we're giving people the options to say, look, you can do this on your own. Look, I love my Apple phone, and I love that I can get a Microsoft operating system on my computer, but I could do without some of the large companies in my life for sure. If I had to go to like the mom and pop shop to buy milk and flour every day, I might enjoy that a little bit more than driving around the corner to Walmart where I'm just another person to feed the machine. So there's a balance to everything, but man, just if somebody could be willing to take that one chance, and you might fail, but if you learn something, I don't think you failed. So and you're going to have to fall down. You're going to have to scrape your knee. You're going to have to get bruised, right? Like, you have to screw up in order to succeed. And I think that's what stops most people is they're afraid of that first bruise.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I've had a blast being on the show, and anytime we want to do this again, I'd be happy to join again, Kyle.
Oh man, that's awesome. If anybody wanted to reach out to you, do you have anything you want to plug? I know you guys got an Instagram. Every once in a while you're posting pictures of really big construction vehicles. So any of my listeners that get a kick out of that, or if they got a kid, like I bet you I could go down and pull it up and show my 11-year-old son, and he'd be like, wow, look at that. Like where can people find you? Where can they see what's going on with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, Turner Mining Group. You can just search it on all three. We've got a podcast called Turner Mining Live. We had a lot of fun with that. And really all things social media. We try to be active and interact with our audience. So any one of those channels.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for giving me a little piece of your time and your busy schedule. And I think I could probably find a reason to do this again, and I would very much enjoy it.
Awesome, Kyle. Appreciate it, man. Great talking to you.
Awesome. Talk to you later.
See ya.
That's all the time we have for this week. To keep the conversation going, head on over to the Floor Academy Facebook group. Be sure to subscribe so you can hear each and every episode. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and most major podcast directories. Don't forget to leave a review and let us know what you think about the show. If you would like to be a guest, have questions or feedback, you can email us at flooracademypodcast@gmail.com. You can help support the show by becoming a patron over at www.patreon.com/flooracademy. Remember to learn while you earn.